Following the enormous critical and commercial success of Dune, Part 2, Rebecca Ferguson will return to the realm of the imaginative for an upcoming fantasy movie that bears some resemblance to John Wick. The 40-year-old actress has recently cornered the sci-fi/fantasy market with some of Rebecca Ferguson's best movies and TV shows based on acclaimed sci-fi novels. She's also recently starred in the sci-fi thriller Reminiscence with Hugh Jackman and will return to the genre in 2025 for Mercy, co-starring with Chris Pratt. Rebecca Ferguson is, of course, best known for her role as Ilsa Faust in the Mission Impossible franchise, with international acclaim following her initial appearance in Rogue Nation. Her popularity has only grown through the Dune movies, earning praise for her astonishing performance as Lady Jessica. Dune, Part 3 is confirmed to be in development, but her character likely won't be a significant part of the story, leaving her open to star in her own epic adventures. In 2023, she was reportedly set to play the lead in an adaptation of Joe Abercrombie's Best Served Cold. Rebecca Ferguson will play a mercenary out for revenge in Best Served Cold. Rebecca Ferguson is intended to star in an adaptation of Joe Abercrombie's standalone fantasy novel. Best Served Cold is a standalone novel set in the First Law series, a grim dark fantasy saga with gruesome action, complex characters, and nuanced political conflicts. It's an excellent book series, and Best Served Cold is known for being one of the most action-packed installments, making it the perfect fit for a feature film adaptation. Rebecca Ferguson has agreed to play the lead character, Monza, an infamous mercenary leader who's betrayed by an aristocratic nobleman, setting her on a path for vengeance. Regarding its narrative structure, a movie adaptation could play out like a fantasy version of John Wick. While Best Served Cold is a ruthless, bloody novel, the movie shouldn't simply be just an action fest. Joe Abercrombie is well regarded for his complex world-building and character development, which should shine through in an adaptation. Monza is a leader, fighter, and absolutely terrifying character, defined by complex relationships with those around her, including her brother, her main enemy, and various allies. She should certainly have more dialogue and character growth than in the typical John Wick film, combined with brutal, well-choreographed action sequences. Deadpool director Tim Miller is the perfect fit for Best Served Cold. Deadpool was a darkly comedic, subversive superhero movie, similar to Best Served Cold with fantasy. Deadpool in the Snow in Deadpool and Wolverine. According to the initial report from Deadline, Deadpool's director, Tim Miller, is attached to the project. A later interview with Collider confirmed Miller's involvement, revealing some details about his take on the project. Miller described his vision as Kill Bill meets Game of Thrones, and explained that the original plan was to make the First Law trilogy as movies, but decided starting with a standalone Best Served Cold movie would be the best way to generate broad, mainstream appeal for the franchise. Details on the project's status are unknown and could be delayed by the 2023 strikes. In terms of a directorial choice, Tim Miller is the perfect option for the First Law. Deadpool was a subversion of the superhero genre in many ways, taking typical norms and offering a darker, often humorous alternative. Joe Abercrombie's fantasy style is similar, taking expectations set by novels like The Lord of the Rings and adding elements of satire, dark comedy, and real-world grittiness. Abercrombie himself offered high praise to Tim Miller, stating on his website that there is no bigger fan of, or bigger champion for, these books. Best Served Cold is exactly what the fantasy genre needs. Best Served Cold could be the commercial hit fantasy movies need. Rebecca Ferguson from Dune and Emilia Clarke in Game of Thrones custom image by Simone Ashmoor. After the cultural phenomenon of Game of Thrones, every streaming service wanted to play its hand in creating the next mainstream fantasy show. However, there are many reasons fantasy is so hard to adapt into movies and shows, leading to several projects not amounting to the success streaming services had hoped for. Many of these fantasy TV series have been caught in the trap of trying to emulate aspects of Game of Thrones, which often clashes with their narratives. Not every fantasy series is Game of Thrones.